Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike at Northwest School of Fly Fishing, the old fish hobo. Today's video is on fly fishing the Snake River, in particular the southern part of Snake River that flows through the southern part of Idaho. The Snake River is basically three basic sections. You have the world famous section in eastern Idaho, then you have the section that runs through southern Idaho, and then you have the section that runs from Idaho into Oregon, which is the Hells Canyon area. And today in particular I'm talking about the southern section, southwest Idaho, and I'll be taking you to some of the places along the Snake River and talking about strategy, talking about the flies that we're using and the gear we're using, and some of the places that I might go to on the Snake River. And why the Snake River, of all places? Well, the Snake River is a great fishery. It's a set of dams. It's a big river. But more importantly, it's a place that you can go late winter and early spring. And we're targeting smallmouth bass, which is our general target. But it's a place to go where hardly anybody's fishing at all. Hardly anybody's fly fishing, if anybody. And it's real simple. It really takes two things. It takes a map book with blue lines, and it takes you being able to use Google Maps or some sort of map source on your computer. And it's rather than go into great detail about access points, they're really easy to find. You just got to do a little research. So hopefully this one will whet your appetite for the upcoming spring, places that we can go when all the rivers are swollen. The Snake River's right there for all of the Northwest. We have two big rivers here. We have the Colorado River and the Snake River, and by far the Snake River is famous for its smallmouth bass. So sit back and enjoy the video, and if you like this video or videos similar to this, go to our channel and you'll see 56 other plus videos on fly fishing. Subscribe and like us, and then I'll see you on the river.
Hi, Todd and I are right now about, I'd say, 20-25 minutes from south of Mountain Home on the Snake River. And you got to know a little bit about the Snake River and how to fish this river. First of all, it's probably the most underutilized fly fishing that we do, certainly in southwest Idaho. We are very close to or live near the Snake River, but it's a big river and it's a tale of two rivers. The reality is this is the Snake River, and the great fishing rivers of the Snake, they're branches of the Snake River, like the North Fork of the Snake River. That's the Henry's Fork, and that's the mecca of fly fishing. And you can get any book or any YouTube and get all the information you can possibly find, and go and fish that for trout. It's some of the best trout fishing in America. And then there's the South Snake. The South Snake really comes out of Jackson Hole and flows into the Idaho border out of Palisades Reservoir. And that's another very, very famous section of the Snake River. It's a trout river, and some of the great lodges and guiding services are right there on the South Snake. Certainly the Connet Canyon and all that area in there is just perfect for catching trout, brown trout, cutthroat trout, rainbow trout. But we don't think of that. We think of the Snake River as this river that flows the breadth of the Snake, of the southwest Idaho. And that's just not fly fish that much. For some reason, we're really attracted to these, and I'm guilty of that. We love our rivers here in Idaho, but we do have the Snake, and the Snake is fishable year-round. And it really begins at the confluence of the South Fork and the North Fork of the Snake River, just outside Idaho Falls. And then it runs the breadth of Idaho, southern Idaho, through plains and high desert, farmland, all the way through to the Oregon border and into the great reservoirs of Brownlee, Oxbow, and until it flows down into the Salmon River. But what we're talking about today, really, is that real Snake River, not a fork, not a branch, not a famous area, but the Snake River. And the Snake River is really what grows our crops in southwest Idaho. It's used. It's dammed up from here to there. There's dams everywhere. And what appeals to the Snake River is the quality of fishery that the Snake River really has. It's an incredible fishery for smallmouth bass. And for pound, a smallmouth bass it will fight harder than a rainbow trout. They're just very, very powerful, and they're plentiful. And you can come down here and catch them at almost any section of the Snake River. Now, folks come to me all the time and they want to know where to fly fish on the Snake River. Well, it's hard to tell them to go here and go there and go here and go there. It's just an unknown. Well, I spent the better part of 30 years really fly fishing the Snake River, and I have special places that I like to go and fly fish. This video that we're putting together today is designed to show you where to go, how to get there, the flies we're using, the gear we're using, and some of the techniques I might be using on the river. And today, what we're doing is filming. We're kind of have somewhat of a little issue, is the wind is blowing quite hard and it's making it a little difficult on us. But our intent is to show you where and how, so that you go out here and enjoy this. It's just beautiful out here in the spring. It's just green, it's beautiful. There's not a lot of people out. And so join me on this journey as we take you from really east of Mountain Home all the way down into Marsing. And today we begin our adventure just south of Mountain Home on the Snake River. Now, how we're going to get there is you're going to be on Highway 84, and you're going to exit Mountain Home. You're going to go through Mountain Home like you're going to Mountain Home Air Force Base. Just outside of Mountain Home, you're still in the city area. You're going to turn left on Highway 51. There'll be a Chevron station on your left. That's a main highway that's going to take you straight south into Nevada. You turn left there, and you take a beeline south, and you're going to drop down into the canyon. You're going to see the Snake River, and you're going to see the bridge across there. We're going to begin our day at that bridge. So we're going to cross the bridge. We're going to make a really sharp U-turn, and we're going to come back down and park right there. I mean, we can take a pebble and hit the bridge, and right down there you're going to see a boat dock and a canal that goes up. Now, keep in mind that smallmouth bass are spring spawners, and they like having little places like streams and creeks where they can go up and spawn, and they'll stage themselves right at the mouth of that. Again, today we're fighting whitecap winds, so we begin our journey there, and what I'm going to do there is I'm going to just kind of show you that channel and talk a little bit about how we get here and what kind of techniques I'm using. So typically what I'm trying to do is, if you see me working that mouth there, it's very limited, and I don't have my waders on yet, but I'm really trying to fan that mouth of that canal. And then I'm even going behind the canal. I've caught a lot of smallmouth both in the canal and right in front of that canal. And you'll also, at this time of year, if you're fortunate enough, you'll be able to fish for spawning grass carp. And if you get a spawning grass carp on, you've just paid for your trip. And I'm working this whole area like that. So get here, get off the bridge, park right there, And what I do is I usually park and get out and walk the whole area. There's just a small section you're going to be fishing. If you choose to walk up the channel or up that canal, you can do that too. And I've caught fish all the way up to the top to the road in that canal. So it's a place that you can bring your fly gear and or your spinning gear and use a little lead head rubber if you'd like to do that too. Certainly on a day like today, that would be our advantage to do that. So this would be my first stop. I'm not going to go too much farther east than that because we're getting into a driving issue here. And at this point, I'm really going to work my way back towards Boise. We're here right now at Kov Arm. Kov Arm, C-O-V-E, Kov Arm. It's a cove arm of the Snake, but really it's part of CJ Strike Reservoir. And there is a strong current coming through here. And this is a place that you really want to go out and try, because you can come out here with all your trout gear, your float tubes, whatever it is you like to do as a stillwater fisherman, and you can go fly fish for trout on Crane Falls, which is probably about 100 yards from where I'm standing. And when you're done with fishing at Crane Falls for trout, you can just walk on over to Kov Arm. And Kov Arm is fantastic bass fishing. Hopefully you'll catch it on a day when it's not so windy. And this is a type of section of the river where you can really walk and drive and pick your places. You can be parked on Crane Falls, done fly fishing for trout, and just walk over, 40 feet, and you're on Kov Arm. So it gives you that dual thing. So when you come up here with your trout gear and your bass gear, and then you can pick your poison. But what I'm doing today is I'm just working the banks, and it's a little hard for me to cast today because of the wind, but you'll get the flavor of it. I'm just picking certain parts of the bank where I can reach out and pull in my bug, and we're looking for that 13 or 14 inch bass, hopefully something even bigger. But that's our goal today, and I want to give you a good view of Kov Arm, and then we'll fish here for a little bit, and we'll pack up and we'll roll on down to the next stop. Celebration Park. Certainly this is one of the places you should have on your list of places to go fly fish. It's probably, outside of Swan Falls, gives you the best access to the river. It's just south of Marsing, and it's all paved roads down there, and it's a park set up. There's boat ramps, there's picnic areas, you can camp down there. It's open now. What I like about Celebration Park is, again, there's islands and channels, rocky points, there's giant eddies. It's really bassy and really fishy. There's a trail that takes you upriver to a little lake out there, and you can take a day hike out there. What I like to do is take my rods and all my gear, and I'll hike down to the little lake and turn around and I'll fish my way back to the truck. It's miles of fly fishing. Certainly there's a bridge, a footbridge that you can walk across the river. It adds a little bit of flavor to your fly fishing. So I can fish close in. I don't have to get wet. I can fish close in. I can wade the river. I can put my waders on and wade out there. I got the choice of fishing off the back of these island points. I have big eddies. I have rocky points. It's just an access area. It's going to give you miles of Snake River to fly fish. Celebration Park is, and none of these places I'm talking about are secrets. Celebration Park is historically, it's almost a landmark. The pictographs are there, school buses go there. Most people know where Celebration Park is, but what most people don't know is the bass fishing out there can be really good. And again, I'll take my drift boat down there and I'll launch right there, and I'll float my boat all the way down to Walters Ferry. On some days I floated all the way down to Map Rock. So this is a really a Gold Coast area for you to be doing your bass fishing. We haven't seen one fly fisherman at all, and we started pretty early this morning. So Celebration Park has everything for you. There's restrooms, or you can picnic there, you can camp there. It's an interpretive area. There's more things that you could do other than bass fish, and it's certainly a middle point or starting point to your Snake River bass fishing. Okay, we've arrived here at Walters Ferry. Walters Ferry is off Highway 12, and it's the south end of Nampa. And right here is a really great place if you have a boat. For years I had a drift boat, and I would launch at Celebration Park, and I would drift down to Walters Ferry, and I would be fishing between Celebration Park and Walters Ferry. So it's a pretty mild river between the two, and you should be able to do that if you have a raft or a float tube. Not a float tube, but a drift boat. But here you get good access in the sense that you can move up and down the river a little easier here, and the wind's not quite as strong here as it was down at CJ Strike, and it gives you a little bit of flexibility on where you're going. And not too far from here is, I believe, Map Rock Road, where you're going to get access all along the river here. But I always pull in here. I like to pull in here. I'll spend 10-15 minutes here, do some test casting, and if I can pop one right here, I know that the fishing is going to be really good, and I'll stay here until I stop catching them. So don't ignore Walters Ferry. It's a good access point if you're going to Marsing, Nampa, or you go the back way to Grandview and Murphy and Strike. So sometimes we'll make this loop. I'll start in a Strike and just come make a full circle and then go on home from here. So make Walters Ferry a stop, come here, test fish it. Sometimes the fishing here can be fantastic. I'm sitting here right at Map Rock, or off of Map Rock Road, right at the boat ramp. So you can put your boat or your drift boat or your raft in at Walters Ferry, and you can take and float or motor down from Walters Ferry down to Map Rock, or Map Rock boat ramp. Map Rock's kind of a cool place. It runs parallel to the river. To get here, you're just about a quarter mile, I'd say about a half mile north of Walters Ferry, so you haven't quite hit the river yet. And you would turn right on Map Rock Road or west on Map Rock Road. And Map Rock Road's going to parallel for quite a few miles the river, going in and out and around. And you can find places along Map Rock Road. What I like about this section, especially when the water's down, you can wade. It's just really a area of a lot of islands. And these bass love to be right at the back end, downriver point of an island. And like I said, we're at high water right now, but at lower waters, that means you can really get in and work between the two islands, between the channels. And when you're in a boat, you can anchor out and really work and pick your way down the river. I've had 50 bass days drifting from Walters Ferry to Map Rock. In the spring, the bass are spawning right now. They're schooled up in these places, and once you find it, you're into the bass. So it's quick. It's not too far from home. You're probably about 10 minutes from Nampa, and so if you live in the Nampa area, it's just right out your back door. If you live in Boise, you're probably looking at a 40-minute drive. It's on the trail, meaning sometimes, I mean, you can go from Celebration Park, which gives you a length of river to fish, all the way down to Swan Falls. So you can start in at Swan Falls, fish Swan Falls, drive a little farther downstream to Celebration Park, and then down to Walters Ferry, and then down to Map Rock Road. And that's a whole day. That's probably 2 days worth of fishing right there. So I like Map Rock Road. There's not a lot of people that come down here. It's pretty in the spring, and I'm using the same type of flies and gear I'm using as I would any other place. One place I really need to tell you a little bit about is the CJ Strike Dam, right below the dam. We were unable to get there today, but I feel you need to know a little bit about it. There are a couple parks there. It's a recreational area. It's a place that you can go and actually enjoy the day. It doesn't matter what kind of fly fishing or fishing you're doing, but it does give you great access, especially this time of year. They're releasing water out of the dam. When they do that, they create a current, and these smallmouth bass, they are spawning, and they like to move up. Well, they can only go so far, and there's a dam there. and you can say that pretty much about any dam on the Snake River system. But Strike is a good place. The Strike Dam area is a really good place to go. I've fished it over the years and done quite well there. There's lots of access there. When the river's low, you can get your waders on and move out through the water, and the bass will school up in there in the spring during the spawn. And it's not unusual to catch multiple trout, multiple smallmouth bass, one after the other. Again, getting there and timing, you want to do it when the water's just a tad lower, and you have good access to that. With this COVID-19 thing, they are opening up access now, but it's something that you need to put on your map, and it's a place to go for smallmouth bass fly fishing. One of the questions I get on fly fishing the Snake River, probably it always revolves around gear first. What kind of fly rod do I need? What kind of fly line? And certainly the flies and leaders and things. So let's get that out so that you get a good understanding of that. First of all, there's many ways to fly fish the Snake River. I choose to use sinking line, and what I have here is the end of my sinking line here. So about the back 10 feet of my floating fly line is a sinking line. So essentially I have 80 feet of floating line and 10 feet of sinking line. And if this is too much for you, you can cut it and you can make it 8 feet or 6 feet. It doesn't really matter as long as it gets your fly down. Another way to do it is just use floating line and not have that sinking line, and use the weight of the fly to get down there. Either way is appropriate. But what you should be doing, especially with these big flies here, is you should be using a short leader. And I don't mean the word leader like you would buy in a package at the shop. What I'm using is 12-pound, just regular old 12-pound fluorocarbon that you would buy at your box store. And I've connected that 12-pound fluorocarbon to the end of my sink tip portion of my fly line. So what this means is that you have a little more control over your fly. Instead of having a long leader, we have a lot of fly underwater and you're trying to pick it up and cast it. On this particular system where I'm using sink tip, I want to have that shorter leader so that I have a little more control over my casting, especially on these windy days. On a day like today where it's been real windy, I could have actually cut 2 feet off this and made the casting a little easier. So on windy days you want to go to a shorter leader, and on really calm days you can go to a shorter leader. Again, I prefer 12-pound. When I do lose everything, I usually lose it right at the little loop section of my fly line, and it's just really easy for me to spool out and do that. As far as the flies go, it's hard to find good bass flies. I tend to tie my own, and I kind of put them in two categories. What I have here is just what we call a rabbit strip tail, and with the big eyes. And this is one of the ones I really catch a lot of fish on. It's one I've tied, and I just have the big eyes on it. And the rabbit strip, what the rabbit strip does, it gives it a lot of movement. But before I get into more flies, let's talk about trout flies. So I have a box here of streamers that I use on the river. And heck, you can catch bass with regular trout streamers very easily. And for example, here's one, just a regular old zonker with, a rabbit strip that's tied with marabou. And there you have it. It's just something really simple. Now, I like to use really bright colored eyes because they're a trigger mechanism. Another fly that I like to use is this one right here. It's a real perch fly. And I've caught dozens and dozens and dozens of trout on a perch fly. And again, these are flies that I would use just for trout. And these in particular are for big waters, big rivers like the South Fork of the Snake River, Henry's Fork, South Fork Boise River, and Oahe. And I like to use these flies. The bass like them. And then if I can switch over right quick, if you have you don't have sink tip line, I have this is just a giant woolly bugger with a cone on it. and that's where the weight is. So what this is going to do, this fly is going to drop right straight down like this, and you're going to pick it back up. And it's going to drop, you're going to pick it back up. By and by, I think black is the dominant color on the river, blacks and browns. So I try to keep my patterns to that way. And this is just as basically a woolly bugger that's a few hundred years old. When I flip the box over, I have, these are all, again, before I get into bass flies, I want to make sure you see that the trout flies I have. What I have here is another fly that, if I can get it out, this again is a rainbow trout fly that I use in the main rivers of like the South Fork and Oahe, but this one has a stinger in the back. You see a little stinger hook right there in the back, and it has again, most of these, what they have in common is they have a rabbit strip tail. So this hook and this tail are moving together, and that's when I'm going to get that bass on that short hook. So basically I have two hooks on here. I have a stinger and a back hook, and I have a variety of those assortments. Again, these are flies that I tie, and you don't need to take the flies that I tie. You can just go to a fly shop or online and get your flies. Now, the flies that I tie for the Snake River, over the years that really worked for me, are these brown ones. And again, they have the big eyes to it. And this, again, the common theme is a rabbit strip, but a brown. And you can see the bright eyes there. I love the eyes because it is a trigger mechanism. Sometimes it just is all it takes to get these fish to strike this. And you have the movement of that rabbit strip going into the water. And then just a regular old, again, a rabbit strip woolly bugger. These have always worked well for me in terms of bass fishing. And then really, when we go to this box here on really calm days, you know, I have the a regular old, what we call a surface rider. You know, this is a surface, almost like a plug. And I'm using that on the surface. And really calm, early morning, when the river's really calm and there's no wind, I'll go with that. And then sometimes I'll throw out something just kind of hilarious, like you know, this fly right here, which is just nothing but a giant salmon fly almost, and it has a big red ball with eyes on it. So it's not so much what fly you use, and certainly at the shop we have varieties of them that you can choose from that are designed for bass, but there's basically, it's get the fly out there, get it at the depth the fish are, and try to move that fly at their face, not across their body. And there's many instances in the Snake River where it's very, very deep, and we're casting into that deepness when the trout are really short and shallow. What kind of fly rod do you need? Well, you know, for years and years and years, I fished a 9-foot 6-weight fly rod. And what you saw me doing today was fishing a 9-foot 6-weight fly rod. I think that's certainly a rod that's always performed well for me. However, today's rods are a little different. You can go to a 10-foot 6-weight or a 10-foot 7-weight. You're going to get that extra 12 inches to go. So what's important, I think, of all the things I've talked about, I think the most important thing really is not what kind of fly line you're using or what kind of fly rod you're using. It's how long your leader is. And you have to be able to adjust that or shorten it as you go. So keep your leader somewhat in that 5-foot, 4.5-foot, 5-foot area. And as you start adding or losing flies, you know, you're going to have to stop and you're going to have to put on that 5-foot mark. Adjust the length of your leader to the weather you're having, and you'll be successful. Bass fishing or smallmouth fishing on the Snake River, it's certainly not on everybody's hit list, but give it a try, and certainly don't ignore the areas I've shown you today. Fly fishing the Snake River it could be a project. I could spend a year or even longer going up and down this river, showing you the places of the Snake River. And trust me when I tell you this, we have projects that are over a year old that Todd and I have been filming and still not complete. And this could certainly be one of those type of projects. But what you need to know about the Snake River is it's easy accessible, it's close to home, and it's not so much that you're going to one spot. There's places all up and down the Snake River. I think that the Snake River is the most unappreciated fly fishing treasure that we have in Idaho. You rarely hear any publicity about it. You never see it in a magazine. You certainly don't see it on any kind of recreational material that you would find around town. But it's here, and it is an exciting river. It's a beautiful river. How we filmed it today is how it was 100 years ago. There's bass everywhere up and down the river, but it's just like any other river. You have good days and bad days. On our particular day, it was windy as can be, but the mission was to get out here and show you where you can go and kind of open your eyes a little bit to the Snake River itself. There's not just one spot on the Snake River. We chose to go from really Mountain Home area down to the Marsing area and just do that one run. There's a lot of little places up and down the river that you can stop and get out and fly fish. I mean, I saw at least half a dozen places I could have gotten out and gone fly fishing. The point here is not to show you where someone's favorite fly fishing spot is. Every spot that we've showed you is pretty well known. There's no secret spots in these areas that I'm showing you. However, there's numerous secret spots up and down this river that not only I know about, but other anglers know about, that they go back to and go back to and go back to. The Snake River is also a river where you can take your terminal tackle. Certainly on a day like this, when we got 50-mile-an-hour winds and we're trying to cast flies out there, terminal tackle is something I would go to in a situation like that. I'd take my spinning rod out, put a lead head jig, and I can defeat any kind of wind situation. At higher water in spring, you're not going to be able to get out and wade very often. I do from time to time. I have my waders with me, but on a day like today, I didn't have the need to wade. But I have them with me, and you have to make those decisions too. As the more that you fish this river, the more that you appreciate it. What's nice about the spring is this. It's here, it's available, there's no weeds in the river. None, zero. In the summertime, the water temperatures go way up, and this river here will thicken up with weeds, and it makes it hard to fish from shore. Not so in the spring. I think I had just a little bit of weeds here and there, but nothing like it is when it starts warming up. So this river's fishable from really March all the way into June. And it's certainly a place that you'll feel comfortable. Certainly there's not a lot of people here, and you can get out of town and be close to town at the same time. So when we look at fly fishing, the Snake River to me is a place that I go almost every year, multiple times, and I do it when the trout season's closed. This is the gift the Snake gives you. When you can't go fish anywhere else because of a variety of reasons, COVID-19, Oregon's not letting you fish there, this river's got too much water in it, that river's too far to go, we tend to ignore the Snake, and she's here, she's fun, and she'll give up her secrets if you spend the time and be patient and enjoy this river.